A 10-year-old cancer patient asked to meet Clint Eastwood. What Clint did next made his family cry. It was December 1995, and 10-year-old Tommy Mitchell was dying. The leukemia that had been fighting for 3 years was winning, and the doctors at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles had delivered the news no parent ever wants to hear. There was nothing more they could do. But Tommy had one wish, one dream that kept him going through the chemotherapy, the radiation, the endless hospital stays that had stolen his childhood. He wanted to meet Clint Eastwood. Tommy's bedroom walls were covered with Clint Eastwood posters, the good, the bad, and the ugly, Dirty Harry, Unforgiven. For a boy who'd spent more time in hospitals than playgrounds, Clint's characters represented everything Tommy wished he could be: strong, fearless, indestructible. His mother, Sarah Mitchell, had written dozens of letters to agents, studios, fan clubs. Most went unanswered. A few sent polite form letters explaining that Mr. Eastwood's schedule didn't permit personal appearances. Then the Make-A-Wish Foundation got involved. Make-A-Wish was used to arranging meetings between sick children and their heroes. Usually it meant a brief photo opportunity, maybe an autograph, a few kind words before the celebrity returned to their busy life. But when the request reached Clint Eastwood's office in November 1995, something different happened. Clint read Tommy's story personally, a boy who'd been fighting cancer since age 7, a kid who watched Fistful of Dollars every time he felt scared during treatment, a child who told nurses he was going to be tough like Clint Eastwood. Instead of agreeing to a standard meet and greet, Clint made a phone call that would change everything. "I want to do more than just meet this kid," Clint told his assistant. "I want to make his dream real." What Clint proposed was unprecedented. He wanted to create a short film, a real film, with cameras and crew and costumes, starring Tommy Mitchell as a cowboy hero. "Are you sure about this?" his producer asked. "The insurance alone." "Figure it out," Clint said. "This kid deserves to be the hero of his own story." On December 18, 1995, Tommy and his parents arrived at what they thought would be a brief meeting at Clint's Malpaso Productions office. Instead, they found a full film crew setting up in the parking lot, complete with cameras, lighting equipment, and a wardrobe trailer. Tommy's eyes went wide when he saw Clint walking toward him. Not the frail, sick boy everyone handled with careful gentleness, but like he was meeting a fellow actor. "You must be Tommy," Clint said, extending his hand for a firm handshake. "I hear you're pretty tough." Tommy, bald from chemotherapy and weighing barely 60 pounds, straightened his shoulders. "Yes, sir." "Good, because we're making a movie today, and I need someone I can count on." The short film was called Tommy's Justice. Clint had written it himself. A simple story about a young deputy sheriff, Tommy, who helps an aging Marshal Clint track down bank robbers in the Old West. The costume department had prepared a complete cowboy outfit in Tommy's size: hat, boots, vest, badge, and a holstered cap gun. When Tommy emerged from the wardrobe trailer, transformed into Deputy Tommy Mitchell, the entire crew spontaneously applauded. But this wasn't just dress-up. Clint directed the film with the same professional seriousness he brought to major Hollywood productions. "Tommy, in this scene you're tracking the outlaws," Clint explained as they set up the first shot. "You're brave, but you're also smart. You don't take unnecessary risks. Can you show me how Deputy Tommy Mitchell would move?" Tommy crept forward, staying low, checking corners with the intensity of someone who'd studied every Western ever made. The crew watched in amazement as this sick child became a convincing cowboy hero. They filmed for 6 hours. Tommy never complained about being tired, never asked for breaks. He was living his dream, and he wasn't going to waste a second of it. The film's climax was a showdown between Tommy and the outlaw leader. Standing in the dusty parking lot that had been transformed into a frontier town, Tommy faced down a stuntman dressed as a gunslinger. "This town ain't big enough for both of us," Tommy said, his thin voice carrying surprising authority. The draw was choreographed, so Tommy would win, but what wasn't planned was what happened after Tommy shot the outlaw and the man fell dramatically to the ground. Tommy walked over to the fallen stuntman and offered his hand to help him up. "Good guys help people," Tommy explained to the crew. Even bad guys, after they learn their lesson. The crew was trying not to cry, but Clint wasn't finished. Over the next 3 months, as Tommy's condition worsened, Clint visited him regularly. Not publicity visits with cameras and reporters, but quiet afternoons where they'd watch westerns together and talk about heroes and courage. "You know what makes someone really tough, Tommy?" Clint asked during one visit. "What?" "It's not about being strong or fast with a gun. It's about keeping going when things get hard. About being kind even when you're hurting. You're the toughest person I know." Tommy was back in the hospital by February. Too weak for visitors most days, but Clint still came, sometimes just sitting quietly while Tommy slept, making sure the boy knew he wasn't alone. Meanwhile, Clint was working on something that would ensure Tommy's story lived forever. Tommy's Justice had been edited into a perfect 10-minute film, professional quality, with music, sound effects, and credits that listed Tommy Mitchell as the star. But instead of just giving the family a copy, Clint decided to do something unprecedented. He was in pre-production on his next major film, Absolute Power, scheduled for release in early 1997. At the end of that film's credits, before the standard production company logos, audiences would see something unexpected, dedicated to Tommy Mitchell, deputy, hero, friend, followed by a montage of scenes from Tommy's Justice. Tommy passed away on March 15, 1996. He was 10 years old. At the funeral, Clint gave a eulogy that there wasn't a dry eye in the church. "Tommy taught me something about courage," Clint said. "I've played tough guys in dozens of movies, but Tommy was tougher than any character I ever played. He faced something scarier than any outlaw or criminal, and he never gave up. He never stopped being kind. He never stopped dreaming." Clint paused, looking at Tommy's parents in the front row. "Heroes aren't people who aren't afraid. Heroes are people who are afraid but do the right thing anyway." Tommy was afraid, but he kept fighting. He kept smiling. He kept believing in good guys and happy endings. That's real courage. When Absolute Power was released in February 1997, audiences were surprised by the dedication at the end. Many stayed to watch the clips of Tommy in his cowboy outfit, this brave little boy living his dream. The film's dedication sparked media interest. Entertainment Tonight did a story about Tommy and Clint's friendship, but Clint refused most interview requests. "It's not about publicity," he told his publicist. "It was about a kid who deserved to feel like a hero." But Tommy's mother, Sarah Mitchell, wanted to share the story. "People need to know what Clint Eastwood did for my son," she told reporters. "He didn't just give Tommy an autograph or a photo. He gave him dignity. He treated him like he mattered, like his dreams were important." The story of Tommy and Clint spread beyond entertainment news. Make-A-Wish Foundation reported a surge in volunteers and donations. Other celebrities began creating more elaborate wish fulfillments for sick children. But perhaps most importantly, it changed how people thought about what children in hospitals needed most. Tommy didn't need sympathy, Sarah Mitchell explained in interviews. He needed to feel powerful, to feel important, to feel like he could be the hero instead of always being the victim. Clint understood that. The 10-minute film Tommy's Justice was eventually released to raise money for pediatric cancer research. It became one of the most watched short films in history, with millions of views and hundreds of thousands of dollars raised for children's hospitals. Years later, Clint was asked about the experience in a rare personal interview. "Tommy changed my perspective on what it means to be tough," he said. "I spent my career playing characters who solved problems with guns and violence. Tommy showed me that real strength is about facing impossible odds with grace and kindness." Did you learn anything else from him? Yeah, that every kid deserves to feel like the hero of their own story, even if that story is shorter than we'd like. The Children's Hospital of Los Angeles now has a wing named after Tommy Mitchell. There's a plaque with his photo in his cowboy outfit, along with a quote, "Good guys help people." Make-A-Wish Foundation created the Tommy Mitchell program for elaborate wish fulfillments that go beyond simple meetings. Hundreds of children have benefited from celebrities who were inspired by Clint's example, but perhaps the most lasting impact was on the entertainment industry itself. Word spread quickly that Clint Eastwood had spent months creating a meaningful experience for a dying child, not for publicity, but because it was the right thing to do. Other stars began questioning their own approach to fan requests and charity work. The bar had been raised for what it meant to use celebrity influence responsibly. Tommy's father, Robert Mitchell, keeps a copy of Tommy's Justice on his desk at work. He shows it to people sometimes, explaining how a Hollywood legend helped his son feel powerful during the most powerless time of his life. Tommy was so proud of that film, he says. He watched it every day in the hospital. Even when he was too weak to speak, he'd smile when Deputy Tommy appeared on screen. Clint gave him that, the ability to see himself as strong and brave and important. The original Tommy's Justice film is now part of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences archive, preserved as an example of cinema's potential to heal and inspire. To this day, Clint receives letters from parents of sick children, hoping for similar experiences. While he can't create a film for every child, he's quietly helped dozens of families through his foundation, usually without any media coverage. 25 years later, medical professionals still reference the Tommy Mitchell effect when discussing the psychological impact of empowerment on pediatric patients. Studies have shown that children who feel like active heroes in their own stories, rather than passive victims, show improved treatment compliance and emotional resilience. Tommy's brief time as Deputy Mitchell became a case study in medical journals, proving that sometimes the best medicine isn't found in a prescription bottle, but in helping a child remember their own strength and worth. What many people don't know is that Clint still visits that wing of Children's Hospital regularly, though he asks that his visits not be publicized. Nurses report that he brings copies of Tommy's Justice to show other young patients, telling them the story of the bravest deputy he ever worked with. Some of these children, inspired by Tommy's courage, have gone on to beat their own battles with illness, carrying Deputy Tommy Mitchell's legacy forward in ways that would have made the original cowboy very proud indeed. The story reminds us that heroism isn't always about dramatic gestures or public recognition. Sometimes it's about seeing a child's dream and deciding to make it real, regardless of cost or inconvenience. If this story of compassion and human dignity moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that the smallest acts of kindness can have the biggest impact. Have you ever seen someone go far beyond what was expected to help another person? Share your story in the comments.